In this episode, Dallas of Dancing Leaf Dyeworks and I talk about cicadas, sheep, yarn, and color. Dallas talks to us about how she finds balance in her life, and I hope that we can take some of her advice when it comes to finding balance in ours, especially in this in-between time when we are between isolation and opening back up and trying to find a balance between where we have been in prior times and where we will be going. So I hope you enjoy.
Hi, everybody. It's Lisa from Flying Goat Farm, and I'm here with Dallas from Dancing Leaf Dyeworks. And how are you today, Dallas?
Really good. Yeah, it's a gorgeous day and just getting to work. So nice to talk to you.
Yeah. How are the cicadas at your place?
Pretty loud.
Have you seen a lot of them, though?
And I like them. When I was listening to them yesterday, I thought I'm really going to miss them. So I really am trying to take them all in now. I do appreciate them. So I may be one of those rare ones.
Well, this is my first time since I only moved here 17 years ago. So I came in October of that year. So they were already gone. So this is my first time experiencing them. And so far I can hear them and I can see them on the driveway, the dead ones, and I can see their holes, but they're not all over everything yet.
No, it's different in the country for sure.
I hope so, because I've seen some pictures of people's stuff and there's cicadas all over their bushes, and it's like,
Yeah, like they can't even walk.
Yeah, that would be gross.
Yeah.
So I've known you for probably almost as long as I've lived here, probably maybe 15, 16 years, but I don't know how you started in the business.
Well, I started back in the 80s, probably maybe 1985. Bought this farm in 1983, and I rescued one sheep named Lucia. And she wasn't even, I didn't really know about sheep like wool breeds and meat breeds and dual purpose and all that. And I think she was just a meat breed. So her wool wasn't that great, but I didn't really know about that anyway. So anyway, she was my first sheep. And then I thought, well, this is kind of cool. And my property was set up for sheep because back in the day, my house is almost 100 years old. And there was a sheep fence and a barn for sheep. And I guess there were sheep here. So I thought, well, this is cool. So I ended up getting some goats, just Nubian goats, and some more sheep. Went up to Wisconsin and got some beautiful, beautiful not Leicester Longwool, a Lincoln breed, and a Border Leicester. And those were my two girls. And then I started breeding. So from there, it just went. And I ended up with 22 sheep after many, many years. And I had all this wool, didn't know what to do with it. I kind of started this whole thing backwards with the sheep, had all this really nice wool. And fortunately in my area, there are a lot of women shepherds and that spin and dye and knit and weave. And so one in particular, Peg Coleman, was my mentor. And she took me under her wing, and she lived very close by on a beautiful, gorgeous farm, about 50 acres with a log cabin that was built in like the 1700s that she restored. So she taught me everything about first dyeing, and then I had all this roving that I had it processed into roving. And I didn't know how to spin, so she taught me to spin. And then I had all this beautiful yarn, and so she taught me to knit and then weave. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. And then I started going to the Sheep and Wool Fest with like 2 pounds of roving.
Were you one of the originals at Maryland Sheep and Wool?
I was there a long time ago, but I definitely wasn't an original. But there might have only been maybe 50 vendors or 30 vendors when I started. It was much smaller. And then of course, as we know, it just blossomed from there.
Exactly. Where did you have your fleeces processed at that time? Did you have to send them out to Michigan, or?
I did.
was there some-
I was very loyal to Frankenmuth. They were the first ones that I used, and I used them for the whole entire time. And now I'm only down to 2 sheep, and I just use they have really beautiful locks. So I don't really process their wool anymore, and I use their locks for I hand dye it and sell the locks for crafters or spinners or felters or whatever, and that's how I use it also. But back in the day when I had it made into roving, I would sell the roving or I would spin it myself. And my goal every year was to spin whatever I had. And
That's a lot.
when I had it processed, they were always shoot in April or usually April. And so then it takes sometimes 5 or 6 months to have it processed. So I had that time was my goal to always have that done. And when you have 22 sheep, that was a lot to get through in the year. So if I would have too much, I would send some of the fleeces up to McCausland's in Prince Edward Island in Canada and have it made into blankets. So it would take 10 pounds of raw fleece to make one queen size blanket. So I had a lot of the blankets made also. So now I don't do that because I just use the sheep's wool, the sheep's locks.
Wow, and McCausland still makes those blankets. They've been in the business a long time.
They are wonderful. On my bucket list is to go visit their factory.
Me too. We should do a road trip. That would be fun. To pack up a truck with some fleeces. And go on a road trip.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
That would be fun. I've looked at it before, and I think it would take like 3 or 4 days to get up there. I mean, comfortably,
Right.
because it's a pretty long drive from here to up there.
It is.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list too, because I want to see how they do everything.
I know. I'd love to see it. I just love their blankets. That is my go-to wedding present to people that live in colder climates, and they just love it because you raise the fiber,
Right.
and then they're really like the Hudson Bay blankets. People are more familiar with those. They're woven and then fold. And I have 3 boys, and I let them each pick out what color they wanted. And so they got, a blue one, a brown one, and a teal one. But now I just always get the cream color with the gray stripe. So, just kind of neutral and just wonderful. I have them on all my beds.
Oh, that's cool. That's really neat. And so you're using what breed of sheep do you have right now?
As I said, I just have 2. One is a Teeswater and one is a Blueface Leicester.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
And does your Blueface have the really tiny little corkscrews?
no, they're really long. They just kind of float down.
Okay. Kind of wavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are beautiful.
Yeah. And they get to be about, in 1 year, sometimes they can be about 8 inches long.
Wow.
It's really long.
And that's so different from my fine wools where, it takes them a year to make like 3.5 inches, right? Really short because it has so much crimp in it.
My neighbor has cormos. So you can imagine the crimp is like a little tiny zigzag. I mean, it's just.
Exactly. Well, that's what I have too, is the cormos. And so, yeah, it's luscious, but it's like, it takes forever to grow out.
She coats all hers, so it keeps it really nice. I coated mine because I thought, I want really nice white fleece, but then it started to felt. And with mine, before they're sheared, I just do this to them. I just kind of go through and fluff up their wool, and everything just falls out. So it's just different. It's surprising what the different breeds, how their wool is, and how humidity reacts to it, and
right.
Vegetable matter sticks to it, and whatever. So.
Yeah, I used to coat mine, but it's so hard to keep them in the correct coat or keep them in a coat. They're never quite the right size. It's too tight and then the next size is too big. And then, there's various things to try to make them smaller, but then they get a foot out the front. It's a headache. And since I send all of my stuff out to be made into yarn, that it's like, the mill will get out all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's just so hard to do that, to keep them in the coats. It's crazy.
I know. And I help her herd them in and change their coats. And it is always really hard. And
yeah, so you've been there.
You look out and there's one dragging behind and everything. So.
And somehow they rip the sides, I guess that like it may be itchy or they're trying to get it off. And so they, go across the fence or a nail or something. So. And then you have a whole pile of coats to have to sew up.
Yeah.
And mend. So I don't know how they do it. And I look at Lee Langstaff. She lives really close to you. And, she's got 50 or more?
And I go by her place all the time, and I always look over, and she has really fun coats. Some of them are tartans, and some of them have flowers, and they're all. But she must have 50 sheep, and they all have coats on, and she has to keep changing them all the time. So oof.
I think she's made some of those coats herself, and especially the ones for the lambs. I think they're so cute. Some have flowers. They're really fun.
They're felted. So they're made of wool.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Wool coat on a wool coat.
Yeah. So do you, as far as like textile artists, do you consider yourself mostly a dyer, mostly a felter, or a conglomeration of everything?
I would say I'm mostly a dyer because that's what I have been doing. Somehow I got onto that and it just stuck. And I think because I'm an artist anyway, I was a graphic artist. And then I dabbled in watercolor and oils and acrylics. And so it was all about the color. Everything is about the color. And so I really liked that, doing that onto yarn. And of course, then it opens up, the knitting, and I was a weaver for a while. I had 3 different looms, but it's just such an alone type of thing. So I don't know. I did it for a while, but then I just decided that I didn't want to weave anymore and sold all my looms and all that. I'm glad that I learned it because, I have that to go back to if I ever want to. But the dyeing is what I really, really like. And you get so much variety of having done it for so long. You see the styles change, the colors change, the bases change, and just everything is just always a growing market. And by the most, and I have a dye kitchen in my basement that's all set up. I can mess everything up and not have to clean it up. When I first started this, as I said, I have 3 boys and they were young at the time, and I was doing it in my brand new kitchen and white countertops, and I would get dye everywhere, and I'd have to do it while they were at school. Because you don't want kids around that. And so I would be scrubbing with Comet and, getting everything off. And then everything was nice and clean when they came home. The next day, I'd mess it all up again. So finally, we put plumbing in the basement and a washer and, a stove and everything. So now it's just a dream, even though it's kind of dark and musty down there. I have good lighting, and it's just a nice place to retreat to. And I can, like right now, I'm just dying to order mostly, and I can just go down and turn on a couple pots, get some going, and then go off and do something else. So it's something that I know that I have ADHD some, and so it's like, oh, I can go do this, but I don't have to be down there the whole time watching water simmer.
Exactly.
Go out and mow my lawn, or do some computer work, or do something else. So this business fits my lifestyle very, very well, because there's so many facets to it, and I think I get bored easily with things, and this has so many different things going on that it has kept me entertained for all these years. So I feel
Yeah, and before this pandemic hit, I was somebody that I dyed every single day. I would dye something every day. And then after, the business just changed so drastically in the last 12 months. So now I'm like you, I'm dying to order a lot. And so it is nice to be able to just like put on a couple pots, put on your timer, and then go and do something else. It really is nice that way.
And it's kind of, to me, it's like a no-brainer because, somebody wants Charleston in woodsy color. And so it's just like, okay, I know how to do that. And you don't have to think of all these new colors or what base am I going to do, or will people like this? It's totally different, the way this last year has been. And it's kind of a reset. And I think it's going to be hard for all of us to go back. If they have Rhinebeck this year, it's going to be so hard for me to start dyeing in August or whatever, to build up that stock again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and starting, I keep thinking I'm going to just start earlier so that I can like go slowly into it, so that I don't feel like I'm overwhelmed at the end.
Yeah, it is going to be. Well, looking at your stock right now, it looks like you're pretty well stocked.
Yeah, I've been keeping it. I do keep a production list, but yeah, there's some holes in there. I've been really good at moving things around to make it still look good.
It fluffs up.
Yeah, that's helpful. So when you do come up with new colorways and things, how do you figure out what it's going to be? Do you look at inspiration first, or do you go down and look and see, oh, what do I feel like making, and then come up with names after? How do you work that all out?
I think it just varies. It's probably everything, all of the above. I do see things. I'm out in nature a lot because I hike or bike every day. So I'm seeing these color combinations that already happen that we're all used to, and people are familiar with that. So I think, they like that. And I know what colors go together. I tend not to do complementary colors, except maybe purple and green. I usually go on the color wheel. I'm usually the colors that are next to each other.
Right, analogous color. I like that too.
Because they flow one into the other. Your eye can kind of handle all that. And say I only do 3 colors. Well, those 3 colors are going to overlap each other and make other colors, but they're all going to like flow nicely together. Whereas if you're doing complementary colors across the color wheel, they're going to clash. Those colors are going to clash in the middle, and I don't like that as much. So that's, and to me, that was just innate. It's not something I learned or anything. It just like my eye, it's pleasing to my eye. So that's how I do it. But I will see like a butterfly or a bird that has really cool colors, or a customer will come in with this shirt and I go, oh, those colors go so well together. I wouldn't have thought about that. I could put this dash of lime green in there and it'll make all those other colors pop. And as far as naming them, a lot of times I will probably dye it first and then come up with a name. And a little cheat thing that I do, I have back in the day I used Duron paint, and so I have a color wheel that's about that thick that has, I don't know, maybe 20,000 colors in there, and they're all named. So say I have a purple, so I'll go to the purple one, and the purple passion or purple peony or whatever. So some of those is an easy way to find a name. The other thing that I've started to do is that sometimes people buy yarn because of the name of the yarn. Like
yes.
Popular TV shows like Stranger Things or Schitt's Creek or Game of Thrones. So in that respect, like for Schitt's Creek, I just Google Schitt's Creek and what comes up, and I'll pick certain colors, like the motel was pink and yellow and gray. So that, and white. So that was my Schitt's Creek color.
And you did Mora too, right?
was black and white. I mean, that's kind of that's kind of easy, but that's what makes it fun, and that's my interpretation. And as what we have been doing, Lisa and Karen and I, the Farm Chicks, every month we pick a photograph, and it is our interpretation of that photograph. And every single month we look, and we're so different. We of course pick the same colors, but just the way we apply them to the yarn, or the way they overlap, or whatever, they're very different. We're very different from each other.
And it's fun because people then go from place to place and collect them. So they're kind of, it's kind of an event in that way that we've set up, which makes it really fun.
All the colors will go together,
Right.
They're inspired by the same photograph. And what's fun is when a customer comes back and shows us what they've knit out of our minis or our skeins, and oh, this is Karen's and that's Lisa's, and so you can kind of tell, that, oh yeah, that was that June colorway. So
yeah, it makes it really fun. It's been a fun collaboration to do that, I think.
Yeah, and I really do like to do that. So and the other thing that I draw inspiration from, I'm on Instagram all the time, and you're scrolling down, and then all of a sudden you'll see this beautiful bouquet of flowers or this beautiful artwork or something, and you go, oh, that is just so cool. So I'll do a screenshot of it, and I will use that. I hope it's okay with them that that I do that.
Well, then it's a matter of public record, really, and you're using it as inspiration. It's not like you're copying a yarn or something.
And that's, I come up with a lot of things like that. And what's really fun when I'm scrolling through Instagram, this has happened to me so many times. The three, they're all different people, all different people, and the pictures will match. And it's like, that is just so weird. And
that is weird. And I tell people to do that with Pinterest as well, that you can go and make, a color inspiration board on Pinterest and collect things. And then you kind of figure out what your color sense is. Because I think a lot of people that come to us, they're afraid of color. They they don't know exactly what to pick. And so, developing that color sense has been really, really fun for me to help them with.
Right. And it is fun. And for us, because we work with it so much, like I said, it's innate.
Yes.
It just seems like it just comes naturally. But I think that is something a lot of people struggle with. Also, it's whatever is in fashion. Like I'll go to the store and just kind of walk through the women's section just to see what colors, because of course, when you're knitting, you're making something to wear. So you kind of want it to go with what's in fashion, right then. So
right. That's a good idea as well. That's awesome. So you are one of the people, I am a workaholic. So, I just am. You should see my planner. It's crazy. But you are somebody that I think has mastered the art of life in balance. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, and especially in these times where everything has been so out of whack, how do you keep your life in balance?
Yeah, I think it's made a lot of us look inward. And because when you're in a routine, like a lot of people do work outside the home. So you get up, you get dressed, you go to work, you eat there, you come home, and it's that routine. Well, that was just thrown out the window. So now you're home and you have to manage your time so much differently. And how do you do that? And I think a lot of people were anxious about that, or bored or sad, or, whatever.
Or overwhelmed if you had, the husband's also working at home and the kids are, doing home at school on the computers and all that.
One thing I think I'm thankful for that I'm old.
Yeah, one benefit. Yeah.
House, because that would have been crazy. But yeah, as far as time management, it is like with the dyeing, you can go down and put it on and then come up and do your computer work, your social media or whatever, and go out and photograph. Or I can go, okay, I have an hour where this is the dye is simmering. So I'll go out and mow the lawn, and then get off the lawnmower, go down and check it, turn it over, put more dye on, and do it that way. So I definitely fill up a day doing that. But I also take time. I'm selfish this way, I think, is that I take time for me. And that means either hiking or biking and getting outside. And to me, it's not like, oh, I have to do this. It's like I want to do it. And it's not even to nourish my soul or to do any of that. It's just that I just like doing it. And I just feel like we all need the exercise, because dyeing is not sedentary. Dyeing is, dyeing yarn. I didn't even realize it because I just do it, but somebody said, another dyer said, this is such physical work. It's so hard. And I never even thought of that, but because you just do it, just like carpentry is hard or whatever, and they don't think about it, they just do it.
But it's lifting those heavy pots of water and lifting wet skeins and
running up and down the steps and, doing all that. It is physical. And I should just I don't have a Fitbit. I should just carry my phone with me all the time to see how many steps I do a day, just that. So it is active, but knitting, I say, is a sedentary sport. So, and people can sit, me included, I could sit for 3 or 4 hours knitting. I'm up and down a bit between all that, but I feel like we just need to move more. If I'm going to sit for 3 hours, I better be moving for 3 hours too. So I just feel that way, and how I balance everything out. But it's not like I mean to balance it; it just does. I think.
So when you decide that you're going to go, so you said you bike or hike every day. So do you like set out, I'm going to go and do this trail today, or do you just like get on the road and walk up the street?
Yeah, I do both, because I live across from a really large field, hundreds of acres, so I can walk around there. Except right now they haven't made hay yet, and it's like past my knees, and so it's way too hard to hike in there. But I live in an area too where there's so many trails, and I have many friends that hike. So I don't really plan it out. I just say to Krista, where do you want to hike today and what time? And it's around the weather, around our different schedules or whatever. So it might be 8 in the morning and it might be 6 at night. Or in the winter, we try to go in the middle of the day when it's the warmest.
Yeah.
When it's 32 degrees.
And then you like to do these really long bike trips too. You were just gone for 4 days, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going on another 3-day one next week. And that is important to me too, because that's why I like doing this business, and a one-woman business, is that you're your own boss and you're your own scheduler of time. And I can crank it up or I can, bring it down, the business. And years ago, I thought, many times this would happen like every 3 years in my mind. I should really grow the business, because look at this person, they're doing this and this, and I need to do that. And so I would think, oh, I need to rent another place because I can't do it in my basement. I need to have this person and that person and hire them. And I think, no, what am I thinking? I can't go away for a month in the summer then. And I would have people to pay and mouths to feed and that type of thing. But if it's just me, I can scale it back when I want to. And I hope my customers understand, if it's just a week at a time, that's pretty easy. But when it's a month at a time, I kind of have to shut it down. And, so that's a little more difficult.
We are both really lucky because we both have a space where we can kind of retail. It's always open if we're around, that kind of thing. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility, which is really nice.
Yeah, because people say, what are your hours? And I said, whenever you want to come.
Yeah. And that's one of my questions. So if people want to come by and shop, what is your preferred way for them to contact you?
Either email me, which is the best because then I have a record of it, or give a phone call and just say, I want to come out on Tuesday at 10, and that's fine. I'll be here for that. So that works out fine because I really don't keep regular hours.
And everybody is living such a busy life. I mean, before the pandemic, especially, but even with it, it's like, yeah, everybody's a little off kilter. So being available when they can come is, the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, and it's worked out. It's worked out very well, and people do like to come at off times. But we do offer quite a bit of shopping experience with our monthly things, and then I'm on 3 times a year. I'm on another studio tour that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then just special events on the farm. And I'm just starting to ramp up my classes again.
Oh, good.
And I need to put, that on the website because I think we can safely do small classes again. So
exactly. So what classes do you teach then?
I teach Nuno felting, a scarf, and painting with wool, and some knitting, but mostly the felting.
That's awesome. So if people want to get a hold of you, tell us what your website is, your Instagram.
All right. It's almost everything is Dancing Leaf Farm. 2 years ago, I changed the name from Dancing Leaf Farm to Dancing Leaf Dyeworks. So I have both domain names, and you can reach me at either one. But my Instagram is Dancing Leaf Farm. Facebook is Dancing Leaf Farm. My website is dancingleaffarm.com or dancingleafdyeworks.com. I'm on Twitter. Etsy, I have an Etsy shop, Dancing Leaf Farm. So there's a lot of different ways to get a hold of me. But mostly it's, my website or Instagram. And on Instagram, I post all the events, the sales, anything special that's happening. That's kind of my go-to social media platform, but also Facebook.
That's awesome. So where are you? Have you already hiked today, or are you going to a little later?
Pretty soon.
Where are you going to hike or bike?
Hike today. I had a choice of which should I do, because it's a perfect day for both, but I'm going to hike up in near Gambrel.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's a perfect day for that.
So thank you for joining us today. It was really fun. It's, like I said, I've known you for a long time, and we've worked together pretty closely, like for the last 4 years, but I didn't know all of your backstory. And so I think everybody will love to hear that too. And we're happy that you're out maintaining your balance.
Yeah, I know. Well, enjoy the rest of the day. And thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Great. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.